Do you want this to be you in sparring? No, right? Then you need to watch this video. There just is really no getting around it. Sparring, at least done with some frequency and regularity over some period of time, is essential for you to become a better boxer. Truly, almost anyone can look pretty good on the bag or on mitts, but what is the real determiner of a good boxer is what you look like when you're in that ring. One thing that really holds people back from sparring, besides the fear of humiliation and not looking good, one thing: head trauma. Boxing and head trauma are basically synonymous. This is a sport where you put your hands in bandages so you can hit somebody's head as hard as you freaking can. If anyone tells you that you can succeed in boxing without ever sparring hard, meaning you can go from zero, like no experience, nothing, to an elite level, if you believe them, I have a bridge to sell you. So in this video, we're gonna cut away all the BS and give you 10 tips on how you can be safe and still progress to any level you want to get to. And maybe, if you're good enough, you can actually swim and not get wet. But hey, why should you listen to me? I've been a professional and amateur boxing coach for about 15 years, built guys from complete zero, no experience in boxing, to amateur champions and professionals who have fought on national television. I boxed in the United States and in Mexico under my father, Doc Kepner, who was a professional boxing coach for decades. So I've been raised around it my entire life. Who was his coach? His coach was Chuck Bodak. Chuck worked with over 50 world champions and was the Olympic coach for Muhammad Ali. We're about to jump into the 10 points that are gonna keep you safe in sparring while still allowing you to progress to any level you want to get to. But hey, make sure you stick around for the very last point, because this is the point that I see people most oftentimes forget. And hey, trust me, if you forget this point, you're gonna live to regret it. There is a single chemical that protects your brain, and if you deplenish it, it takes about 48 hours to replenish it. So during that time, you're at a great danger. Also, if you don't have enough of this one chemical, you're gonna experience a decrease in athletic performance, which is gonna lead you to getting hit more. You're gonna experience more fatigue, which is gonna lead you to getting hit more. And you're also gonna experience a lack of mental clarity, which is also gonna lead you to getting hit more. And again, if you don't have enough of this chemical, you're not gonna have the protection your brain needs for when you get your head snapped. And hey, trust me, as we all know, if you actually really box, I don't care how good you are gonna get your head snapped at some point. That one chemical is a combination of 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen, H2O. It's water. And I know it sounds like the basics, but hey, the beauty's in the basics. I see so many guys, they wear a sweatsuit, they sweat out in the gym. They don't drink enough water throughout the day. Their urine is not clear. They are dehydrating themselves the entire week of their fight and all this other crazy nonsense. And they're putting themselves in severe danger, not for their kidneys, not for their organs, but for the most important organ up here, your brain, because you have the cerebral fluid, that's water. When you severely dehydrate yourself, you deplete that. It takes a long time to get it back. And while it's depleted, your brain is severely susceptible to damage, to more damage than it is already susceptible to in this sport of boxing. Make sure you drink enough water and don't sweat for no reason. You sweat because you train hard. Don't sweat extra because you think it's gonna be extra good. Have you ever heard of Harold Johnson? He was a pro boxer from the middle part of the 20th century, and he famously got drugged before one of his matches. A fan or admirer gave him an orange in the locker room. He ate that orange, went out there, and ended up falling out. And thank goodness didn't have worse things happen to him. They determined the orange was poisoned by a barbiturate. You wouldn't want to go into your sparring session being drugged by a barbiturate or something that's going to affect your performance like that, right? Let me illustrate this with another example. My father was an amateur wrestler before he got into boxing and boxed in the CYO gym and met Chuck Bodak and Tony Zale. But he loved wrestling. He didn't love the coach though. The coach would have them train hard the day before their matches. And he ended up playing hooky and not going to those trainings. And when he would do that, he would have his best performances the next day in competition. The same thing goes with sparring. I see guys that are basically drugging themselves or overtraining themselves before they're going into their sparring session. They're training crazy hard the day before. They're lifting crazy weights. They're maybe running too hard, or they're maybe just hitting the bag and boxing too hard the day before they go into spar hard. And if you're going to go in and spar hard, you need to make sure you're fresh. You need to make sure you're tip top. Make sure you're rested, because you need to keep yourself safe. And if you lose focus for a moment, or your body is too tired to be able to react, you're going to get more damage, and you're not going to learn and progress as much as you could. You're robbing yourself of that. So the point number 2 is be fresh. This is a funny question that I love asking people, but let's say I was going to pay you whatever your price is for Mike Tyson to hit you with one punch, his hardest punch, okay? Now, there's 2 things you get to decide on. You get to decide on what the price is, like I said, so whatever your price is, almost everyone has a price, within reason, and he's only gonna hit you one time, okay? So Mike Tyson's gonna hit you. He's gonna hit you on your head only one time. You get to decide the price, and you also get to decide the second thing, which is where on your head he hits you. I ask people this question all the time. Where would be the smartest place for you to get hit on your head with the hardest punch? Where would it be? Well, you probably know the answer if you've been doing any boxing for any period of time. It's not your nose, it's not your jaw, it's not your eye socket, your orbital bone, it's not the back of your head, it's your forehead. If I'm gonna get hit by Mike Tyson, I wanna get a good pretty penny for that one shot, because that shot's gonna be hell, but I'm gonna pick right here. What are you gonna pick? So this next point is, let's make sure we increase the odds of only getting hit there by keeping our chin down. We're going to decrease the amount of damage done to the soft tissues of our face, but also when you get hit on the tip of the chin, that's the button in boxing. That's going to cause the most jarring and the most damage. All right, so I talked about what you need to watch out for the day before sparring, but let's talk about right after sparring. Oftentimes, I'll see guys spar and have a good sparring session. They get popped a little bit, but we need to watch out for all that stuff. And then they'll go out and do something else, which is going to be doing what? It's going to be bumping their brain. And all of those bumps and subconcussive injuries of the brain shaking is not going to help it heal. You have to give it time. You have to give it time to heal. And it could even be jumping rope, honestly. If you want to be very sure that you're keeping yourself safe and protected, I recommend after you have a hard sparring session, let's not jump rope afterwards. Let's maybe not even go for a run afterwards. Get on a stationary bike. Do something like that. Don't do something where you're gonna be bouncing, at least just not the very next day. You don't have to be a neurotic or crazy about it, but let's maximize our own body's ability to recover from that trauma that we're experiencing in the ring. I have seen boxers do some of the craziest things. I have seen guys, and I've seen coaches have their boxers spar every day of the week, number one, but then also every day of the week building up to their fight. Heck, I've had matches I've made for my guys and gals where I'll get a call on Thursday night and we're fighting Saturday, and they'll say, hey, my person can't fight anymore because they got injured. What were they doing? They were sparring and they got hurt. All right, and that's the injuries we know about. Some injuries we don't know about. They don't exhibit themselves so clearly. All right, so just like lifting weights and anything else, you can do that too much, too often. And of course, the most important thing that is you is your brain. So if you're damaging that thing too much and too often, it's going to be a load of trouble for you down the road. Remember, it's not just a hard fight that is what ruins somebody. It's oftentimes their time in the gym that ruins them. Or you think about an athlete in competition with any part of their body, it might not actually be the competition itself that ruined them. It might be the training they're doing in the gym that ruined them. All right, so make sure you give yourself Again, touching on like we talked about in the previous point, proper time to recover. Now, what is proper time to recover? About a week. About a week from you sparring and getting hit, because we're all gonna get hit in some way at some point in sparring. Take about a week from getting hit before you get hit again. So what does that mean? If you have a fight coming up, let's not spar about a week out from it, right? You can push it a little bit. It can be 5 days, whatever, but let's not be sparring a couple days before the fight, because then we're going into the fight with maybe a little bit of damage. And then that compounded damage upon itself, with the body having no ability to heal itself, is just like you lifting weights and doing freaking curls like every day. You're gonna stop adapting, and in that case, you're just gonna hurt yourself, but it's not a big deal because it's just your muscle. But in this case of boxing, you might unalive yourself, or wish you were unalive because you've done that much damage.
You want him to do you so much you could do anything.
Take a week between getting hit. All right, so the next thing is, oh, wait a second. I left it in my car because I just had guys fighting. Got to get it back in the gym because that was yesterday I used it, and now I got to make sure it's in the gym for sparring. Have you ever heard people talk about guys being slippery? It means he's hard to hit, right? But it literally can mean that someone's slippery, because they're hard. It's gonna be hard to hit someone with a hard punch if they're all slippery. Well, Vaseline, petroleum jelly, very important, very important. Make sure you use it when you spar. Make sure you use it in your fights. Remember, in sparring, you can use more than what you're allowed to use in your fights. Why do they limit how much you can use in a fight? Because if you use a lot of it, it helps a lot. Helps punches not stick, not cut you, of course, but even not stick. If I put Vaseline all over your face and all over your helmet, and someone tries to hit you with a punch, that punch is gonna slide and not rip your head as hard. And guess what? That's good for us because we're gonna have less damage. Vaseline, guys, make sure you get it all over you. Have you ever heard that carrots are good for your eyes? I heard somewhere, I remember reading that started, or that connection of being so known in our society started in World War II. Is actually the Brits that started the propaganda that, hey, their soldiers and whatnot were eating carrots for their eyesight, and that's why they could see the German attacks so well in the night when they would try to do their night bombings of London and stuff like that. Apparently, it doesn't help with eyesight that much. It was actually a way that they did their best to disguise the fact that they were using radar to see while they did the blackouts in London. There's no lights, no spotlights or anything else like that, which is what they had to use to see the planes, but they could still detect where they were. They were using radar. Well, you don't want to fight and not use everything available to you. Have your own radar in the ring, and the best radar you can have is the best eyesight you can have. Now, am I going to say point number 7 is eat carrots? No, I'm not. What I'm going to say point number 7 is keep your eyes open. When you blink or squint, or frankly, some of us close our eyes when we box and spar at certain points in time when we're worried about something or out of control, that punch is going to hurt a lot more. And we're also not going to be able to see punches and react to punches, right? Ideally, see punches and react to punches, but at the very least, if a punch is going to hit us, let's see that punch so we can properly prepare for it and get ready for it mentally. Because sometimes the punches you don't see are the punches that hurt because you weren't even ready for that punch. And it's an interesting effect. It almost hurts you more in a funny way. So remember, even if you're just blinking as you punch, which I've seen people do, I've seen some top level guys do that. They'll throw punches and blink. Can you think of who I might be talking about? Comment below if you do. But I've definitely seen many blink while people throw punches at them or while they're concerned about punches coming at them. Let's make sure we keep our eyes open as much as possible so that we can have the whole ring at our control and see everything. Let's say you're in the ring sparring with someone who's light years ahead of you with their boxing technique and experience. What makes it so hard? What makes it so hard is there is so much going on that you can't anticipate it all, right? You don't know when they're gonna punch, when they're gonna move, what they're going to punch with, where they're going to move, how they're going to react. So much is going on, and you don't have an understanding of most of it, right? And that's what makes it trouble. Well, guess what? How do you make it easier? This is point number 8. You close your sparring down. You have less factors. Closed sparring means less, open means more or all. How do we close our sparring down? Make it as simple as breaking it down to one partner or one person can only do jabs, let's say. If you're going against a high-level guy and all he can do is jab, guess what? That allows you to at least be a little bit competitive and work on some things you want to work on in the ring versus if he's allowed to do everything, right? If he's allowed to do everything, you're going to shut down. But if we just give that guy a jab that he can use and that's it, yeah, that's going to give you some trouble too. But guess what, man? Now you're going to get really good at dealing with a jab and get you up to that level in bits and pieces, right? We can eat a whole elephant, just not in one bite. And how we become the best boxer that we can be and that we're meant to be and that you will be is one bite at a time. Point number 8 is have closed sparring where you work on specific things or limit what punches can be thrown. Anyone can look good in the boxing ring for a period of time. For some boxers, it might be a couple rounds. For some boxers, it might be the first round. For others, it might be the first half of the first round. For some boxers, it might be the first 10 seconds.
What a bonus for the crowd here in Wisbech to see, for my money, the most exciting prospect in British boxing at the moment. Nigel Benn in the golden trunks, and that is one punch, and Ian Chandler is down. He's very close to us, and he will not get up from that.
Right? Maybe it's while they're in the corner before the bell rings, right? For everybody, there's a moment in time that we can all be decent or appear decent in the ring. The trouble is, any amateur will tell you when they go against a higher level pro fighter is when you start getting in those rounds, you start getting more opportunities for mistakes. And if you lose focus for just a moment, then it's trouble and it's more damage and you're less safe. You can keep focus for a couple rounds, a few rounds, but 6 rounds, that's harder. That requires the next level of experience and you'll get there, but don't jump there too soon. So if you want to make sure that you stay safe while also getting in ring experience against better people, point number 9 is minimize the rounds. Don't do so many rounds, because if you don't, you can do your best to be perfect for a couple rounds, 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds, but once you start getting in 5 and 6, there's more opportunities for mistake, particularly when you're sparring hard, which again, it's a fact of life that if you do want to get to an elite level in boxing, you are going to have to spar hard at some point. These are just the facts. Am I saying you always got to spar hard? No, but you're going to have to at some point. That's how you're going to be able to learn how to pressure test what you're doing and not only do it in competition. I remember when I was still boxing, I was sparring with a lot of the guys on the UGA boxing team, and they were getting ready for competition. So this one coach that helped me out a little bit with conditioning and stuff like that, he wanted to get the guys some different work, some work with some people that they weren't used to, that they weren't going against all the time. So he took them down to an old gym in Atlanta that's not there anymore called The Art of Boxing. It's ran by Johnny Gant, who fought Sugar Ray Leonard in the pros. Apparently they bring the guys down there. It was like 2 or 3 of them, about 160 pounds. And the guys that they were supposed to spar with didn't show up. So here they are down there, went all the way down to Atlanta. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive, depending where you're going to. And these guys don't have any work. But there happened to be some kids that were walking by off the street that came in, no boxing shoes. And they're like, hey, we'll jump in the ring, we'll spar. So they sparred these college boxer kids. And like this coach told me, beat the hell out of these college boxers. Now, why did they beat the hell out of these college boxers? Is it because they were bigger? No, they were actually smaller. Was it because they were better at the technique of boxing? You know, had they done more shadow boxing, more bag work, more condition? No, none of it. What was the difference? The difference was point number 10, which is the most important difference that we can have in the sport of boxing. Because you can see it, skills don't always pay the bills. The one thing that ensures it all works is number 10. Doesn't matter how sharp you are, how conditioned you are. I see it play out time and time again. When you lack this one thing, nothing else works. It's your attitude in the ring. The attitude of that you can take the punch and the punch isn't going to hurt you. Believe it or not, I've seen guys mold that attitude and literally get hurt less. Can I give you a physiological reason behind that? No, I can't. And am I going to tell you to just take punches but just be tougher and change your attitude? No. We want to do all those other things I'm talking about, as well as work on our defense. But at the end of the day, it's your attitude that determines your altitude with anything. So you have that attitude that you're a tough SOB and that person hits like a little you know what, you're gonna frankly get hurt less. I've seen it happen. I don't know if it's the fact is that you're gonna maybe not shy away from the punch so much, or maybe you're able to react to it better, or maybe be able to give that person more pressure or more things to worry about, that they're not able to just unload and build up that confidence to try to ice you with their hardest punch. But your attitude is going to determine what level you get to and how safe you are in the ring. Also, as well as your attitude when you're in there, being focused, being present in the moment, and being dominant. Being dominant doesn't mean being a jerk. I'm not saying be a jerk, be an a-hole. I'm just saying you have to have that dominant mindset of, hey, I own this ring. Stomp your feet on that sucker and be like, I own this thing in your own mind. You don't have to disparage the other person. You might have to disparage them in your own mind, but make sure you keep on top of your attitude, that you are a tough boxer and that almost no one can hurt you, right? You're not going to let anyone test it, but you're tough. You have to keep that attitude, because when you have that attitude where you don't give a darn, you're not worried about it, you're not overly concerned about it, you're not going to be neurotic about it. I've seen it change a guy just like that. If you feel like you need work on your attitude with boxing and your ability to build up your confidence and your mindset, I did a whole video taking a deep dive into it. Make sure you click on it right here, because that might be the single thing that separates you from getting to the next level. I've seen many people have it be the one thing that changes everything. Also, if you enjoy this video, a great way to support it besides liking, commenting below, and subscribing, joining level 1 or 2 of the channel, you get more content and also more coaching from me. But also you could buy me a cup of coffee down below. Click on that super thanks, and a lot of people support that way, and it really helps out a lot, because here I am late at night at the gym doing this video so I don't bother anybody else, but so I can help somebody like you.